Hello again, and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. It's Monday, the 21st of August. I'm Andrew Wilson, and this is Scotland at 7. This evening, I have the latest daily update from Ukraine on day 544 of the illegal Russian war of aggression and imperial ambition, and then I will take a look at today's headlines from Scotland and around the world. The Netherlands and Denmark have announced that they will donate up to 61 F-16 fighter jets between them to Ukraine once pilot training has been satisfactorily completed. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Kyiv was getting closer to obtaining Swedish Gripen fighter jets during a visit to Sweden. Our soldiers are already starting to test them, he said in his nightly address, adding that he had discussed the matter with Sweden's Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson. President Zelensky vowed retaliation after at least 7 people were killed and 144 injured in a vile Russian missile strike that hit a theatre and a central square in the northern Ukrainian city of Chernihiv. I am sure our soldiers will give a response to Russia for this terrorist attack, Zelensky said, a notable response. Russia said Ukrainian drones had attacked 4 separate regions in a flurry of attempted strikes on Sunday, injuring 5 people and forcing 2 of Moscow's airports to briefly divert flights. Russia's Kursk, Rostov and Belgorod regions, all of which border Ukraine, reported attempted drone strikes, while Russia's defense ministry said it had jammed a Ukrainian drone in the Moscow region, forcing it to crash in an unpopulated area. A day earlier, a Ukrainian drone was targeted a military airfield in Russia's Novgorod region, causing a fire and damaging 1 warplane, Russia's defense ministry said. The ministry said that nobody was hurt. There have been increasing reports of SA-5 Gammon missiles striking Russia, with drones regularly hitting Moscow, the UK's Ministry of Defence said in its latest intelligence update. The South African President, Cyril Ramaphosa, has vowed his country will not be drawn into a contest between global powers, as he prepared to host a summit of the BRICS emerging nations. Russian President Vladimir Putin will not attend in person to avoid a diplomatic problem for South Africa over pending international arrest warrants against the Russian president. Pretoria is officially non-aligned in the conflict, but has been accused of siding with Moscow. The serial killer nurse Lucy Letby will never be released from prison after a judge sentenced her to a rare whole-life term for the sadistic murder of 7 babies. Letby, 33, is one of only 3 women alive to have been given such a jail sentence in the UK. She was sentenced today at Manchester Crown Court. The former neonatal nurse, the worst child serial killer in modern British history, was also convicted of attempting to murder 6 more babies at the Countess of Chester Hospital. Sentencing Letby, Mr. Justice Goss described her crimes as a cruel, calculated and cynical campaign of child murder involving the smallest and most vulnerable children. Letby knew her actions were causing significant physical suffering and would cause untold mental suffering, the judge said. There was a deep malevolence bordering on sadism in your actions. The judge said she acted in a way that was completely contrary to the normal human instincts of nurturing and caring for babies. Goss said her claims to have done her best in caring for babies was one of many lies she told throughout the trial. There is no doubt that you are intelligent, and outwardly you were a very conscientious, hard-working, knowledgeable nurse, which enabled you to harm babies for some time. The trial heard how Letby often attacked the infants just moments after their parents or nurses had left their sides. She fatally injected 7 babies with air, tried to kill 2 others by lacing their feeding bags with insulin, and attempted to murder 1 by thrusting a nasogastric tube down its throat. Letby had a detached enthusiasm for the resuscitation of babies fighting for life, the judge said, adding that she cruelly and callously made inappropriate remarks to parents or colleagues during or after a death. She kept hundreds of medical documents as morbid records of the dreadful events surrounding your victims and what you had done to them, the court heard. Goss said it was not for him to reach conclusions about the underlying reasons for Letby's actions, nor could I, he added, for they are known only to you. Letby refused to be present in court for the sentencing, in which parents of her victims described in powerful detail the impact of her crimes. Goss ordered her to be provided with a copy of the sentencing remarks and of the victim impact statements in her absence. The whole life sentence means that Letby will spend the rest of her life and die in jail. Scotland's Cabinet Secretary for NHS Recovery, Health and Social Care, Michael Matheson, has written to the UK's Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, Steve Barclay, offering to mediate new talks between the UK government and junior doctors in England. The Scottish Government has averted strike action in the NHS in Scotland, including amongst junior doctors. In a letter to the UK Government, Scotland's Health Secretary said, "I would like to offer the services of myself and my officials to mediate new talks between the UK Government and the BMA junior doctors' representatives. Given the low ebb of relations between the UK Government and the representatives of NHS England staff, I believe such mediation may be necessary to bring these matters to a conclusion that benefits patients. The Scottish Government will be happy to host such talks, either in Edinburgh or in London." Addressing Steve Barclay's call on the Scottish and Welsh governments to work with the UK Government to reduce NHS waiting times, Michael Matheson said that he hoped that this signalled an intention that the UK Government would take a different approach from the sustained underinvestment in health and social care since the Conservatives took office. The SNP has called on Anas Sarwar to stand up to his London bosses and demand that employment law be devolved to Holyrood, after a former senior Labour official accused the party of betraying devolution. The former Scottish Labour Secretary, Michael Sharp, said that Angela Rayner's decision to rule out devolving employment law was a huge blow to devolution, and that it was a slap in the face to the trade unions who have campaigned for this for many years. Mr. Sharp said, "This is a betrayal of the party of devolution and a slap in the face to trade unions who have campaigned for this for many years. It is also a missed opportunity to improve the lives of working people in Scotland, none more so than the 109,000 who are on 0 hours contracts." The call echoes General Secretary of the Scottish Trades Union Coalition, Ros Foyer, who said earlier this year, "Now more than ever, Scotland needs the devolution of employment law to outlaw once and for all the use of 0 hours contracts, giving workers security, certainty, and workplace rights from day one of their employment." Commenting, David Linden MP said this latest intervention from a former senior Labour official shows how out of touch the pro-Brexit Labour Party are with the people of Scotland. It's time for Anas Sarwar to stand up to his London bosses and demand that employment law is devolved to Holyrood on day one of a future Labour UK government. Keir Starmer's party was a movement grown out of trade unions with the purpose of supporting workers' rights. However, his party has moved so far to the right, they are content to leave Scottish workers' rights in the hands of a right-wing, draconian Westminster government. Suella Braverman is refusing to endorse a Home Office-funded pilot scheme that has been described by the UN as a more humane and as a scheme which would dramatically reduce the spiralling costs of the crisis-hit asylum system. The Home Secretary, however, is intent on overseeing a huge increase in the Home Office's detention estate, which experts estimate will take billions of pounds to fund. Braverman told Parliament that she intends to pursue a programme of increasing immigration detention capacity, which reportedly includes disused RAF bases and barges. The only barge used so far is the Bibi Stockholm, which was to hold 500 asylum seekers, but is now empty after Legionella bacteria was discovered on board. The Home Office is also paying more than £5 million a day to house asylum seekers in hotels. Braverman intends to push ahead with the detention and criminalisation of asylum seekers arriving in small boats, despite the UNHCR, the refugee agency that helps the UK government improve its asylum system, praising the Home Office-funded scheme in Bedfordshire, which it found cut the cost of accommodating refugees and migrants by more than half when compared with placing them in detention. The savings came through housing people and giving legal and welfare support. The UNHCR's evaluation of the Home Office-funded pilot is expected to praise the Bedfordshire scheme because it was more humane and treated refugees and migrants with civility. Critics say it is this aspect that has seen the scheme effectively abandoned by the Home Office, whose bill gives the Home Secretary a legal duty to detain and remove anyone deemed to be entering the UK illegally. The King's Arm project, based in Bedford, has since August 2020 supported 75 vulnerable migrants of 23 nationalities, offering them legal advice, clothing, mental health support, English language learning, and GP registration while in the community. The pilot was more cost-effective than detention and led to better outcomes, such as settled status. Fewer than half of those held in immigration detention centres are eventually deported. The Home Office has given no explanation as to why the scheme was not introduced on a wider scale after the pilot began last summer. The Refugee Council has warned the UK government's Illegal Migration Act will lead to tens of thousands of refugees being detained, with internal government projections indicating that costs could top £3 billion over the next 2 years. A report this week by IPPR think tank is expected to warn that the law will only worsen the chaos. The average cost of petrol at UK forecourts has risen to break £1.50 a litre for the first time since the start of the year, despite close scrutiny of fuel prices during the cost of living crisis. The latest increase in pump prices means petrol is now at 150.51 pence a litre, the highest level since January, and diesel has risen to 152.41 pence a litre, the AA said. The motoring group last week accused supermarkets of overcharging customers in rural areas for fuel. Oil prices have risen steadily in recent months because of global production cuts, before easing earlier in August. On Monday, Brent crude rose 1% to $85.66 a barrel as tighter supplies from Saudi Arabia and Russia and high heating oil prices outweighed investor concerns over a potential drop in global demand, particularly in China. Wholesale cost increases appear to have peaked for the moment, but the fallout from the recent surge is still finding its way to the pumps, said Luke Bosdet, the AA's spokesperson on pump prices. The Competition and Markets Authority said in July that pump prices had risen since 2019 because of a decision by the traditional price leaders to compete less hard. Over the past months, supermarkets have brought prices down by just half a penny when compared with company-branded retailers, but the cost of diesel has gone up by a similar amount. This month, Asda began publishing fuel prices at its forecourts online, becoming the first retailer to launch such a service after questions about widening profit margins at their pumps. Last month, the UK government rode back on plans for a law to force supermarkets to make fuel prices more transparent, instead backing a voluntary comparison scheme in a meeting with bosses from the big retailers. Meanwhile, European gas prices jumped by nearly a fifth, with benchmark Dutch month-ahead gas rising by 18% to £36.68 a megawatt hour today. The Metropolitan Police has been criticised after it announced it has discontinued its investigation into a Cash for Honours allegation involving the King's charity, the Prince's Foundation. Today, the force said that no further action would be taken after the conclusion of an 18-month inquiry into media reports that offers of help to secure honours and citizenship for a wealthy Saudi national were made by a former chief executive of the foundation. The Met said it had considered offences under the Honours, Prevention of Abuses Act 1925 and the Bribery Act 2010. Several witnesses were interviewed, including 2 men under caution, and over 200 documents reviewed. A file was passed to the Crown Prosecution Service in October last year. With the benefit of the CPS's early investigative advice, and after careful consideration of the information received as a result of the investigation to date, the Met has concluded that no further action will be taken in this matter, it said in a statement. This decision was criticised by Norman Baker, the former Liberal Democrat minister and author, who had written to the Met Police after asking them to investigate the Prince's Foundation under the Honours Prevention of Abuses Act. He said, "This is an incredibly open and shut case, with the evidence provided in writing. It is astonishing how this matter is not being taken forward. We need an explanation from the Crown Prosecution Service and the Met as to why no action is being taken. But the suspicion must be that no action is being taken because of the nature of the potential offender, rather than a proper assessment of the potential crime." The investigation began after press reports that the billionaire Mahfouz Mareh Mubarak bin Mahfouz paid tens of thousands of pounds to fixers with links to the then Prince of Wales, who had told him that they could secure him a knighthood and UK citizenship. In a September 2021 letter, a letter written in 2017 was published in the press, in which a close aide of Charles, Michael Fawcett, said the Prince's Foundation would be happy and willing to use its influence to help Mahfouz, who had donated thousands of pounds to the foundation. When the allegations surfaced, the foundation launched an internal investigation, which in turn led to Fawcett stepping down as its chief executive. Fawcett subsequently received a £60,000 payoff from the foundation. Saudi border guards have been accused of killing hundreds of Ethiopians using small arms and explosive weapons in a targeted campaign that rights advocates suggest may amount to a crime against humanity. The shocking claims are made in a detailed investigation by Human Rights Watch, which interviewed dozens of Ethiopian people who said they were attacked by border guards when they tried to cross into Saudi Arabia from Yemen. Using satellite imaging, photographs of deaths from more than 20 incidents, witness testimony by survivors, and forensic experts' examination of survivors' wounds, Human Rights Watch has built up a compelling and horrific picture of an escalating campaign of extreme violence aimed at people trying to cross the border. Witness testimony describes mass killings, with women and children dying in shelling, and dead people and body parts spread along trails. Human Rights Watch's lead researcher in the report, Nadia Hardman, described the findings as obscene. "I cover violence at borders, but I have never come across something of this nature, the use of explosive weapons including against women and children," Hardman said. The report builds on a mounting body of evidence of extremely serious human rights violations on the Saudi-Yemen border. Last year, UN Special Rapporteurs wrote to the Saudi government with allegations about the killing of hundreds of migrants. The latest investigation into abuses in an area largely shut off to foreign journalists and aid workers is the most detailed picture yet of what is actually happening at the border. Among the most shocking claims are that Saudi border forces shelled a group of people who had been arrested, detained, and expelled, even as they attempted to cross the border back into Yemen. Saudi border forces forced a young person who had survived an attack to rape another survivor under threat of execution, and people detained after crossing the border were shot at close quarters, and survivors were told by border forces to choose a limb to be shot in. Hundreds of thousands of Ethiopians live and work in Saudi Arabia. Many migrate for economic reasons, but some have been driven to leave by rights abuses in Ethiopia, including during the recent brutal war in the north of the country. The alleged killings have occurred on a major migration transit route used by people traffickers and smugglers between Al Jauf in Saudi Arabia and Sadaa in Yemen, a region controlled by the Houthi Ansar Allah movement that borders Saudi Arabia's Jazan province. Human Rights Watch's researchers interviewed 42 Ethiopian people who had tried to cross into Saudi Arabia from Yemen, or the friends and relatives of those who tried to cross, and analysed more than 350 videos and photographs posted to social media or gathered from other sources, filmed between the 12th of May 2021 and the 18th of July 2023. Last week, Downing Street confirmed that Rishi Sunak will welcome Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, to London at the earliest opportunity. It would be the first visit since the death in 2018 of the Saudi dissident Jamal Khashoggi, who US intelligence believe was murdered and dismembered by Saudi agents in Istanbul on the orders of Prince Mohammed. The Republican US Senator Bill Cassidy has said that Donald Trump should drop out of the 2024 race for the White House because polling shows the former US president trailing Joe Biden as he grapples with more than 90 pending criminal charges. Cassidy's comments to the State of the Union host Kasie Hunt on Sunday evening were not the first time he has denounced Trump. About 2 months earlier, he went on CNN and predicted that Trump would lose if his party nominated him to run for the Oval Office again, citing the poor performance of his endorsed candidates during the 2022 midterms. Obviously, that's up to him, but he will lose to Joe Biden if you look at the current polls, Cassidy said of his fellow Republican and former president on State of the Union. The Louisiana senator added that it would do their party no good if Trump ends up getting the nomination but cannot win a general election against the Democratic incumbent, Joe Biden. The Louisiana senator added that a poll by CBS News on Sunday showed Trump at the moment enjoys 62% support amongst Republicans, with many of them trusting him more than they do their friends, family, and religious leaders. But polling for now shows Biden generally is ahead of Trump, whose next closest rival for the Republican nomination, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, is polling just 16% among his party's voters. Trump has established his domination so far in the Republican presidential primary despite facing 91 criminal charges across 4 separate indictments filed against him for his alleged 2020 election subversion, illicit retention of classified documents, and hush money payments to the porn star Stormy Daniels. On Sunday's edition of State of the Union, Cassidy said to him it seemed like the classified documents case was almost a slam dunk. "I'm not an attorney," said Cassidy, but referring to an audio recording of Trump discussing military secrets that he had not declassified at his Bedminster, New Jersey golf club in 2021, Cassidy said he thought that the mishandling of the federal documents seemed like a very strong case. Cassidy was one of 6 Senate Republicans who voted to convict the Trump when he was impeached after his supporters staged the US Capitol attack on the 6th of January 2021. In a historic decision, Ecuadorians voted yesterday against the oil drilling of a protected area in the Amazon that is home to 2 uncontacted tribes and serves as a biodiversity hotspot. With more than 90% of the ballots counted by early today, about 6 in 10 Ecuadorians rejected the oil exploration in the Block 44 area, situated within the Yasuni National Park, one of the world's most biodiverse regions. This area is inhabited by the Tagaeri and the Taromenani, who live in self-isolation. In 1989, Yasuni was designated a World Biosphere Reserve by UNESCO. It covers more than 1 million hectares and is home to 610 species of birds, 139 species of amphibians, and 121 species of reptiles. At least three species there are endemic. The outcome represents a significant blow to the Ecuadorian president, Guillermo Lasso, who advocated for oil drilling, asserting that its revenues were crucial to the country's economy. As a result of the vote, the state oil company, Petroecuador, will be required to dismantle its operations there. The referendum took place alongside the presidential election, which will be decided in a runoff between the leftist candidate Luisa Gonzalez and the right-wing contender Daniel Noboa. The country is experiencing political turmoil after the assassination of one of the candidates, Fernando Villavicencio, on the 9th of August. More people displaced by the war in Ukraine will be supported to integrate into communities, secure jobs, and access mental health services thanks to funding for Edinburgh-based third sector organisations. The Edinburgh Voluntary Organisations Council, Volunteer Edinburgh, The Welcoming Project, Phoenix, and the Association of Ukrainians in Great Britain's Edinburgh branch are sharing more than £200,000 from the Scottish Government's Ukraine programme funding pot. The Migration Minister, Emma Roddick, said people all over Scotland, and particularly in Edinburgh, have welcomed those fleeing the war in Ukraine into their communities, their schools, workplaces and their homes. Third sector organisations have been at the heart of this warm welcome, supporting Ukrainians every step of the way. They have hosted English lessons, created social hubs and helped people to access local services. They have also showcased what can be achieved when national and local government and the third sector work together, and this funding will help make sure this important partnership working continues. As we look ahead to the Independence Day of Ukraine, our message to Ukrainians remains clear. We stand with you, and we want Scotland to be your home for as long as you need it. And that is all that we have for you this evening. In making these programmes, Broadcasting Scotland depends on the generosity of viewers and others who value our distinctive approach to news, current affairs and culture. Please help us to continue to make these programmes, to develop the station and to make new programmes for you. Our programmes will always be free to view, but if you can afford £5 a month, please consider becoming a Broadcasting Scotland supporter. Right now we have a pressing need to raise £30,000 to pay our bills and to ensure we are able to continue making programmes. We have now raised nearly £13,000, but we really need to raise the remaining £17,000 by the end of this week, if possible. To everyone who has donated, and to everyone who has signed up to make a regular monthly payment as a Broadcasting Scotland supporter, thank you very much. There are other ways in which you can contribute to our work. If you would like to volunteer to work with Broadcasting Scotland, either behind the scenes or in front of the cameras, or in any other way that helps our work and promotes the station, then please visit our website at www.broadcastingscotland.scot and send us a message there. You can find us on Twitter at BroadcastScot. Please like and retweet us there. You can also now find us on Blue Sky, and you can find us on Facebook by searching for Broadcasting Scotland. While you're watching us on YouTube, it would be great if you would like and subscribe to Broadcasting Scotland on that platform. We will be back at 7 p.m. sharp tomorrow evening for the next edition of Scotland at 7, so please come and join us then. Thank you very much for watching Broadcasting Scotland this evening. Please look after yourselves and please have a very peaceful evening. Bye-bye.
Hello and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. My name is Lewis McGlynn.
Hello and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. My name is Saoirse Healy.
Hello and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. My name is Donald C. Stewart. Broadcasting Scotland is Scotland's independent broadcaster, providing factual news, reporting on the issues important to the people of Scotland.
We are committed to public service broadcasting, and with your support, we will produce even more programmes.
Provide opportunities for young people interested in media production and broadcasting, and challenge preconceptions of what Scottish media looks like, amplifying Scotland's voice and reflecting its communities.
We can already deliver high-quality live news, and we will create the highest quality programmes for you to enjoy, but we can only do that with your support.
So please subscribe to and share our channel or donate to Broadcasting Scotland via the link in the description. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.